if you take the choice away from yourself, like if you've only, like I only have one lens on my camera, so I don't have a choice. Like even if I look at something, if I'm looking at a scene and thinking this would be better on a tighter lens or a wider lens, tough, I don't have it. So
Yeah.
you just have to get on, like, you know, you don't have that kind of, if you had those choices, then you spend time thinking about them, but because I don't, I just have to get on with it and get what I can. And more often than not, it works out.
Willkommen zurück bei einer Episode Feierabendbier mit Hochzeitsvideografen. Es war jetzt schon eine längere Zeit Pause bei unserem Podcast, aber jetzt geht es stark weiter. Wir haben schon einige Podcasts in der Pipeline. Heute ist eine ganz besondere Episode, die wir aufnehmen konnten mit Adam Wing. Er ist ein Hochzeitsfilmemacher aus UK. Er hat 2016 angefangen mit dem Filmemachen, hat jetzt schon über 200 Hochzeiten gefilmt. Wir sind selbst, wie wir dann später im Podcast auch öfter hören, mit große Fans von ihm. Wir haben ihn über YouTube kennengelernt und er ist einfach ein inspirierender Charakter, finde ich, in der Hochzeitswelt. Und verzeiht unsere Englisch-Schwächen, aber ich hoffe, es ist trotzdem eine spannende Episode und viel Spaß beim Zuhören. But seriously, we're super happy to have you. You're kind of a role model for me. You inspired a lot of my filmmaking process. We've copied a lot of things you've shown in the BTS of your YouTube videos. For everybody who hasn't seen it, we will advertise it at the end of the video even more. But you should really check it out. It's I don't know, like 25 minutes or 30 minutes of behind the scenes with really cool insights of how you chill on a wedding day. And still get this amazing wedding films, and I think that's why we thought it would be a great idea to talk about the workflow and the simplicity of your workflow. Hi Adam, nice to meet you.
and you too as well. Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure. I'm excited to be here.
So yeah, we would like to talk about your minimalist style, or
would you call it as a minimalist style, or how would you describe your own filmmaking style?
Lazy. Yeah, I suppose minimal is what I would call it. I certainly call it that on my website, and when I speak to brides and grooms, and I say that it's very discreet and minimal. And relaxed and just chilled out, as you say, because I think, especially here in the UK, brides and grooms don't want to be filmed. They don't want to be followed around with a camera all day. So if I always try and meet couples in person before they book. So if I can explain to them that I won't be in their face with a camera, I won't be videoing all the guests and annoying people, then they like that kind of relaxed approach. And by having small cameras and small equipment, and it's sort of no kind of nothing overly technological, that allows me to be super discreet and just hide in the background. And I also think it helps me get better films as well, better footage, strangely enough, by having less equipment. Yeah,
I think that's we'll come back to that, because it's very, very interesting how the lack of gear and the lack of complexity makes actually for a better film, maybe for weddings. I think.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Beforehand, I wanted to ask you, how did you get started in filmmaking, in wedding filmmaking particularly, and
Sure.
Yeah, and when did you know or decide, oh, that would be a thing that will work full time?
Yeah. So, well, it's all one question. I didn't have any filmmaking experience before my first wedding. I'd never used a camera before. Not properly anyway. So my uncle is a wedding singer, and he is an entertainer at weddings. And he's a few years ago, he just asked if I could video him at a wedding to capture his performance or his singing. And I said, well, I don't know how to use a camera. And he said, he was like, I've bought one on Amazon. Just use this, like figure it out. I'm sure it's easy enough. So he was just like, just press record, and so I filmed him at a wedding, and then I did that a couple of times just for his promotional use. And then he told me that he knows people that film weddings, as a job. So I was like, I could do that. So I started filming more of the weddings as well as his stuff, and then I just decided after maybe 3 or 4 of those, and then I decided that I was going to try and film a full wedding. But the first time I turned up with a camera was kind of the first time I used a camera. So I wasn't. It's not like I knew anything about filmmaking before I went to a wedding. And I still don't really.
Same for me.
Yeah, it's quite so funny. There are so many unconventional stories of how wedding filmmakers started filming weddings.
Yeah, it's good because a lot of people I know just kind of were into cameras, and then their friends said, "Can you photograph or video our wedding? Because you're the guy that likes cameras." Whereas for me, I had no interest in cameras. It was just my uncle saying, "You could make money doing this." So I went, "Oh, okay." And I was at university at the time. I was studying to be a teacher, and I think I got paid, my first wedding was £300. So that, to me as a student at uni, that was that's a lot of beer money. I can buy a lot of beer with that. Just and at the weekend for a day's work. So I was sold straight away, and then I realised quickly that you could earn a lot more than that, and I just dove in with both feet and got quite a few weddings straight away off, and then I never got a real job. It just I started earning enough money to do it full time pretty quickly, so I just went in with both feet, dove straight into it, and I've been doing it for 4.5 years now, full time.
And what did change from, okay, my uncle told me to make 3 videos for him, and some bride and groom said, well, come to our wedding, and now you film 50 weddings a season.
Yes.
I don't know. It can't be just a motivation to help your uncle.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it was. It obviously didn't happen overnight by accident. So I started. I used the weddings that I'd done for him with him, and then I started advertising. I got a website, and I was charging £500 at the time sterling, and I started to do a few weddings, and I was just kind of messaging friends of friends and asking if anyone needed a video from people I knew. And then when I started to go to weddings, you meet photographers, you meet venue owners, and we said off camera before, I just said yes to everything that I could get my hands on. So if a venue were doing a wedding fair, like a wedding showcase, could I do a little behind the scenes video for them? Yes, I will do that. And and photographers were asking for promo videos, and I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And I just did it all for free. And I just said yes to a lot of stuff. But it meant I built up some really good relationships quite early on. And I entered an award, and it's in the UK. We've got the Wedding Industry Awards, and it's a national awards for weddings. And I entered as a videographer, and I got the best newcomer videographer award in my first year. So I think winning that generated quite a lot of inquiries. So just put my name out there to a lot more people. And just by chance, I did a wedding for someone who was in Coronation Street, which is a popular soap here. I don't know if you've heard of it at all. And it's on TV every night. It's really popular in the UK. And one of the cast from that program, I did her wedding. because I just
Amazing.
knew a friend of a friend. So it was kind of like a celebrity wedding. But it was just because I got lucky. I kind of knew her friend, so they recommended me. I did it, and it got published in Hello magazine. So that was kind of early on, and I won the award. So like within 6 months, I'd won this national kind of award and videoed a celebrity wedding. And well, that's kind of. I mean, it's it's just I just went and filmed some weddings for nice people, but I just kind of dressed it up as like, look at what I've achieved already. So it helped get my name out there quite a bit. And then the following year, I went from like 15 weddings to 49 in year 2.
That's crazy.
Which was I annoyed me because I was one away from 50. So the next year I was determined to do 50, which I did. But to answer your question, it was that combination of just saying yes to everything, trying to expand my network to meet as many photographers as I could, as many venues as I could, florists, DJs, anyone to do with a wedding that could possibly recommend me, because a lot of photographers will, when they book a bride and groom, the bride and groom will ask the photographer, do you do video, or do you know anyone that does video? So then they recommend me, and I've got quite a few photographer friends now who I've met over the years who recommend me, so that's where a lot of my work comes from. And yeah, the more weddings I do, the more it kind of tends to bring in, the more opportunities it brings. But it's obviously a lot. It's a lot of work.
So your tip would be win an award, get on national TV, and it'll be easy.
Yeah, easy. Anyone
easy.
But the thing with the awards is funny because obviously I market it and I advertise it on social media and Instagram. And to brides and grooms, it looks amazing. Like, wow, he's won these film awards. It makes me sound like the Oscars or Steven Spielberg or something. But to people in the industry, like in the UK, this particular award that I won, you have to pay to enter. You have to fill in this big long profile, and you have to pester your brides and grooms to vote for you. So the more work you put into it, the better your chances of winning. So there's ways of winning it. So it was great that I won, and it was really helpful in terms of bookings. But I put a lot of work into it, so it's more of a marketing tool. So I can't say like go and win an award. It's dead easy, but there are ways to do well out of these sorts of things if you know what you're doing and if you put the work in.
Yeah, sure. No, I was just joking, but your approach with making projects for free, I think that's huge. It's so many filmmaker friends, or it's quite a controversial discussion of knowing your worth and not undercharging and stuff like that. But the opportunities and the real, I don't know,
outcome,
the leverage you get from doing free stuff is, I think it's super cool.
I think especially, I mean, I appreciate that not everyone wants to work their arse off for free, and it doesn't always work out, and sometimes you put yourself out, you do all this work for nothing and nothing comes of it. But certainly when you're starting out, why the only way you're going to get some wedding video footage, some portfolio that you can advertise, is to shoot a wedding, and no one's going to hire you to shoot a wedding if you've never done one before. So it's like it's an easy way to get your first few weddings. Just say, I'll do it for free. And you just got to put the work in at the start, and it just works. Doing a couple of freebies, if you will, you'll reap the benefits later down the line. It just works. So whether it's something that people want to do or not is a different matter, but it does work. I've got loads of stories of stuff I've done for favours or for I've traded services or done it cheaper than I normally would, and it's led to things down the line. So there's pros and cons, I understand, but I'm a big advocate of working for free. Why not? So it's not like it's difficult work. It's not like we're working in a coal mine or
sure, that would be
know.
it's the same example, like if you work in a mine or something, that's real work, or if you build in a house, or I don't know,
Exactly.
shoveling stones, or I don't know.
So how is it to shoot 50 weddings a year? I mean, how
That's
do you
great.
make it?
It's good. Well, like I say, and having the small, minimal equipment definitely helps. Because I've got friends that get bad backs from all the equipment that they carry. So, and I know I'm still quite young and relatively fit, and it'll probably get worse as I get older. But I have really small light cameras. I don't have any kind of gimbals or steady cams or any contraptions over my shoulder. So it's a long day, isn't it? A wedding, and drinking a lot of water is a must because you get headaches from dehydration, and it's easy to forget, and you go hungry a lot, and you need the toilet all the time, and it's a good long, and it's mental. Like I get home at the end of the night, and I've got adrenaline, and my mind's going because I've been thinking all day, and I've come from a party where there's been loud music and everyone's having a great time, and I come home, my girlfriend's on the sofa just falling asleep to a movie, and I come home, I'm like, wow. So it takes a while to calm down, but then the next morning you're like, you crash, and then a lot of obviously doing 50 weddings a year, a lot of that is condensed into the summer. So then I'm inevitably doing 2 or 3 weddings every weekend, so I might be going out Friday, Saturday, Sunday some weekends, which by Monday I'm like dead and done. Because it is draining, but having small equipment and kind of the approach that I have to filming the day definitely helps, and it goes back to what we said at the start about, brides and grooms appreciate me being discreet and minimal because it means that there's not a big camera in their face, but it also helps me physically, and allows me to be a lot more kind of chilled and present and take more on. And then the main thing is the editing, because obviously doing 50 weddings a year is like 50 wedding days. That's 50 long days of filming, but it's also 50 edits, which takes a long time.
And not just the wedding films, it's also your YouTube videos and all your other projects. So
I do a lot of that as well,
Yeah, and there's a lot of collateral from, I don't know, we get a lot of requests from, I don't know, some vendors that they want to have some shots from the flowers or something, and we like doing those, but it's those hours or half an hour here and half an hour there that is also taking up time. But for sure. I want to come back to the editing part, because that's I think, like you said, one of the most time-consuming things. Did the light and simple approach on the wedding come from you have a lot of weddings a year and you thought, okay, I wouldn't be able to handle a lot of gear, or was it the other way around?
Partly. When I started, I went to a workshop with Philip White, who obviously we spoke about before, who's probably one of the most well-known videographers in the UK, certainly, but in the world maybe. I know a lot of people have heard of him. So I went to his workshop early on, and he's very minimal with his equipment, and he, for similar reasons, but he is a big advocate of that kind of minimal, discreet approach. I think he has like one camera on a monopod all day, and small equipment and stuff. So I took a lot from that. But then, as you say, once I started getting busy, I knew that second year when I did 49 weddings, it was a lot of editing, and I thought, there's something's going to have to give here. I don't think I can maintain that every year. So I had to think about how to strip things back. So it was not only with the small equipment, but how I film on the day. So like just record, rather than recording loads of footage and having more to kind of process afterwards, I would literally just film the 5 or 6 seconds that I need. That's going to go. So I'm always filming the wedding day with thinking about how I'm going to edit it there and then. So, you know, when I'll record 5 or 6 clips of the bride getting ready in the morning, for example, and I know that those are going to just go straight into the edit one after the other, and so that kind of helps, and it helps me film less on the day and be quicker on the day, but it also helps me be quicker when I'm editing it and stuff as well. So I learned the hard way that the editing, that taking on a lot of weddings would mean a lot of editing, and I learned that the hard way, because all of a sudden I had a lot of work to do. But then over time I've found little ways to kind of make it quicker and easier. And
this is what Benny is telling me every time, not to shoot everything, because he is the one who's doing the editing, and I'm the one who's excited by the day and by the people, and I think, oh, that's interesting. That's maybe funny.
What do you do when there is when you know you have all your shots from this part of the day, and you won't have the impression to the couple that you're lazy? I don't know. It's quite of a weird question.
That's a big thing for me.
Yeah, but I think that there's a lot of filmmakers that struggle with that they take a lot, that they film too much because of they think they need to work in these kind of situations.
It's a good question, isn't it? Yeah. I've been known to go and sit in my car and watch Netflix on my phone in the past.
Nice.
I watched that. Only happened a couple times when it was a really big gap between things. So I would go for I always start with the bridal prep and the getting ready in the morning. The bride getting her makeup done, groom getting ready, etc. But I only turn up for the last hour or so. So I can I'll go in, say hello, get maybe 10-15 minutes of footage, and just get whatever's going on. But I suppose in between shots, I suppose I'm still I'm chatting to bridesmaids, or I'm looking for stuff, looking for my next kind of angle, and obviously when that time goes pretty quickly, and there's so much going on that it never looks like I'm just stood around doing nothing. They're all so busy with everything else. So I do float around, and a lot of the time I am just waiting for a shot, but it never feels like I'm not doing anything, because there's so much going on. And then obviously the ceremony is I'm recording the whole of the ceremony. But when it gets to the drinks reception, after the ceremony, and they go sort of before the meal, I don't know how weddings, if it's the same for you guys, they have like the couple of hours where they have a few drinks and stuff, and all the photos. Because there's normally like a lot of guests and there's people everywhere, I can just sneak off if I want to. No one will notice. So I'll go and hide in the other room, and it sounds like a really kind of lazy little shortcuts, where I can just sneak away and do nothing, but I'm normally going and chatting to the photographer, or I'm going and finding the venue people and chatting to them. So I'm always switched on, you know.
Yeah.
I'm always smoozing with the venue staff, or I tend to have a laugh with photographers, because the photographer will say, "Oh, I've got all these family photos to do," and I go, "Oh, great! I'm gonna go and get a coffee. I'll see you later." And then
fun.
they're cursing me. Yeah. So yeah, like for that period of the day, obviously I need to get some footage of kind of guests chatting and having drinks and stuff. But again, it's maybe like I'll get like 20 minutes. I'll just do a little loop around the venue, get 20 minutes of that. Then I'll sneak off and have a drink. Then I'll come back and do another little.
Yeah.
And it's the same like with the. But there's certain things that I just know, as you were saying, Benny. Like I just know I'm not going to put that in my film. So like, a lot of the time it's when they're having the family photos done. And the photographer's lining up the families and taking pictures of them. I don't need really any of that for my film. Unless I see something really funny happening or something really nice or the light is good, then I'll just completely ignore that. And if I see the photographer doing that, I go, right, I'm going to go and film some trees or scenery or something. So, and it's the same with like the cake cutting, and we always have a cake cut in the UK, and I'm like, it's never the best, most exciting thing. So I never use that, and I'll get it, but I never use it in the film. And then at night, the dancing, it's like literally like half an hour, 20 minutes after the first dance, and then I've got enough, and that's all, and I just go home. So it just goes. It's I mean, people, as you mentioned, the behind the scenes videos on my YouTube channel. If anyone wants to watch that, they'll see how laid back I am.
Definitely.
But
Really
it does
recommend
go quite quick, and I enjoy it. It's good. It's a good day. You're always filming people at their best, so everyone's always happy, and very often people will chat to me, like guests, or they're offering to buy you a beer, and they're just enjoying them, like people at the best and at the happiest. So you're surrounded by all this positivity. So it's just nice to and I'll just kind of wander around really slowly, leisurely, and just kind of get a clip here, film that, and get a shot over there, do that, and it just.
I don't know. If you watch the behind the scenes, and if you, I don't know, watch a little bit of Adam, it seems like you're a very fun guy, and that you're kind of smart in doing things. But I think also that it's not, like you say, your laziness, that you have small equipment and having this approach. What would you say to people? What are the benefits of your approach of wedding filmmaking?
I think it just ties in. It all links together. I joke and say it's laziness, but obviously it is a conscious choice. I'm choosing to be this way, because first and foremost, it's an approach that I advertise to brides and grooms, because I think the couples that book me as much on my personality as they do on my films. So they're obviously, they go on my website and they see my videos and they like what they see, to inquire. But after that, they're buying into me as a person. So I try and meet people. I try and explain to them how I won't. I do say to brides and grooms that some videographers will have giant cameras and will be direct to them all day and telling them what to do and where to stand, and I kind of make them plant the seed of fear that, like, oh, we don't want that, so, and then I tell them that I'm the complete opposite, and it's dead discreet and dead easygoing, and you don't want one of those guys with the big cameras. You want me to be dead easy, and it's your guests will be relaxed because I won't be in their faces, and so it helps me sell it to the couple, and then they kind of buy into that, and I convince them that that's what they want, sort of thing, which I think they do. Nobody wants to feel like they're filmed, especially on a day where they should just be enjoying themselves. It's not a Hollywood set, so I do think it's about respecting the wedding day.
For sure.
But also because I'm like on the equipment, and it's better for them, and it's more discreet and respectful for the couple. But also it means physically I'm having an easier day because I'm not carrying around loads of stuff. And also I used to use a gimbal when I started, and it would take me time just to set it up and balance it and pick it up and put the camera on it and unscrew thing. And if I had tripods and other equipment, I'd have to unscrew and screw, and just I noticed that I was missing stuff whilst I was doing these things. So by just having a little camera and shooting handheld, I can almost be like the photographer, because I was always jealous that the photographer could just go snap, 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 snap and get like 12 moments in 30 seconds. So I try to be as close to that as I can, and I shoot handheld, and it allows me to be more in the moment and see what's going on around me. So if there are any little moments of laughter or emotion, crying, funny stuff, like I don't miss anything because I wasn't over there setting up my gimbal. So actually I find that makes I get better footage. And it just looks a bit more natural and real in the film as well. It doesn't look overproduced. I appreciate that there's drones and gimbals and sliders add production value, and they look great, don't get me wrong, but I like the fact that mine kind of look a bit more. I think my films look a bit more rustic and home movie kind of.
A bit more like which I think like your personality maybe induced in your films. Yeah, and I think also that you don't take up too much headspace. I think that it's also a very very important part, because I always thought I don't know, you need a 70 to 200, you need a couple of primes, then you need another zoom lens.
Well, this is it. And when you go into your bag to get another lens, you're missing out on stuff.
Yeah, the time for this, but also the thinking, the process, always questioning yourself, what is the right gear to shoot stuff right now? Would be a gimbal right now the perfect thing, or I don't know, to be as
well, you don't have the mind to recognize what is the moment, what is going on right now.
To have a chat with somebody or something, to be immersed in the day. I think that really helps.
Yeah, if you take the choice away from yourself, like if you've only I only have one lens on my camera, so I don't have a choice. Like even if I look at something, if I'm looking at a scene and thinking this would be better on a tighter lens or a wider lens, tough, I don't have it. So you just have to get on, like, you don't have that kind of, if you had those choices, then you spend time thinking about them. But because I don't, I just have to get on with it and get what I can. And more often than not, it works out. Yeah,
it's all about restriction. Makes sometimes more creative.
Yeah. A lot of times,
you limit yourself. You limit yourself in those respects, but like you say, it opens you up to think outside the box, and it helps the couple feel more relaxed because you've got less. So it all ties in together, and it just I think it's the right way to film a wedding.
Because we talk so cryptically about equipment and stuff. Tell us. How do you shoot 95% of your wedding footage?
Well, I've got because I know we're filming this, so I'll show my stuff on camera. Yeah. I shoot with the Sony A7S Mark IIs, and I've got on this is the one I use most of the day, and it's got a 55mm lens on it. I'm not technical, and this is going back to what we were saying before. If I had other lenses, I wouldn't know what to do with them. And I don't know that much about cameras, to be honest. So because I use a 55mm all the time, I know the focal length of that. I know when I pick it up and look through it, kind of what's going to be in the frame, because I've used it so much. It's like, it's second nature now. So that again that helps me work quicker. So it's always got this 55mm on, and I always have it wide open aperture, at f1.8. So and I always have it on auto white balance, and I don't change anything. I just pick it up, hit record, and I expose it and things, obviously, but it's as simple as I can get it.
But do you expose with your
then
shutter, or do you have an ND filter for this?
Well, yeah. So I expose with the shutter, so
Okay.
I'll go like 1/8,000th,
Yeah.
8,000th of a shutter.
That's another
speed,
thing that if you learn filmmaking the right way, or I don't know, it's in quotes if you don't hear it in my voice, because there is no right way. And I was also shocked because we took the online class of Philip White also, and we wouldn't know that he didn't use ND filters, and he also goes up to 1/8,000th or something with his shutter. And I don't know, maybe some pros would notice, but we didn't. And I think if we won't notice it, it changes a lot of how you approach your filmmaking, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I may have got it from Philip, or I think I got the shutter speed rule from Jeff Wood, who is another guy from the UK.
All right.
Who I took inspiration from a lot. But one of the two. But yeah, it's just I'll just keep going with the shutter until it looks exposed well. And I know Hollywood would not approve of that. But as you say, we're not making Hollywood movies. It's just, and most of your brides and grooms are going to be watching it on their phone anyway. So it's just, I remember I always use this story in regards to color grading, because one thing that took me a lot of time was trying to match the colors and give it a nice color grade. And I looked into it, and it was very kind of mind-boggling. Like, I didn't know where to start with color grading. And then I remember spending a really long time trying to get the colour right on this one video, and I took it round to the bride and groom's house to deliver it to them. And they said, like, "Oh, do you want to come in and sit and watch?" So I sat and watched the film with them for the first time, and they plugged it into the telly, and their telly had some weird settings on it, so the colours looked completely different on their TV to what I tried to make them look like. And they just went, "Oh, it's amazing, it's great." So this is the thing, they're not like your typical bride and groom is not a colour expert.
You don't have the 10-bit 8K monitor.
they don't know. I've got another story as well, I'll tell you in a minute. So I just stopped colour grading there and then. I was like, not going to bother with that. Saved myself a load of time. And
I love that so much.
Nobody batted, and like nobody's questioned it ever. Nobody's said what, and to the point where
but your
I do have a slight colour grade.
But your colors look good. Your films look good. They have, I don't know, they look cinematic. They look.
I do have
depth and everything. I don't know.
I have a couple of settings in the camera so that it looks a certain way, and then I paste on this preset thing, but it's just literally copy and paste. So it saves me a load of time. Color grading. I used to spend 2-3 hours every wedding edit just doing the color, and now it takes me like 2 minutes. So I stopped worrying about that stuff. I had another groom who I did the wedding, and then he said, "I've just bought a 4K TV. Did you shoot my wedding in 4K? Because I can't wait to play the 4K video on my 4K TV." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I'd shot it at 1080 because I don't shoot 4K, but I didn't have the heart to tell him, so I just told him that I had, and he put it on his telly, and he went, "Wow, it looks so much better in 4K. It was so worth it."
Did you at least render it out in 4K, or did you give him the 1080?
No, I wouldn't know how to do that.
You can simply upscale it in your export.
I didn't even know that you could do that.
Okay.
So I just exported it at HD normally, and he put it through his telly, and he was like, "I'm so glad you did it in 4K. It was well worth it." it makes such a difference. And I was like, yeah, sure. So it's amazing what you can get away with. And like the colour grading thing, once I realised that couples just didn't notice. Same with the shutter speed, the motion blur. I just stopped worrying about it.
Nah, that's crazy. I spent a whole day on color grading. I don't know. It's I like it partly. I like to play around with colors and stuff like this, but we don't do 50 weddings. I would get crazy if I would spend a whole day on color grading on 50 weddings. Yeah, but
I will just add that I'm trying to do less weddings now.
Okay.
Because my question was if you would recommend other filmmakers to do 50 weddings a year.
Yeah, sure. I would. It depends, because it depends on your circumstances. Because for me, when I going back 2-3 years, I was still living at home with my parents, and I don't have kids. I didn't have a house or a girlfriend or anything kind of to other commitments. I just had all my time to work on my wedding film business, so I could work a lot of hours. Since I met my partner a couple of years ago, I now spend I spend more time with her, and kind of I try and switch off in the evenings and not work late into the night like I used to. So it starts to shift, and then obviously in years to come, when I'm hopefully going to have kids and all that kind of stuff.
What are your techniques or hacks for speeding up your editing process? You talked about
color grading.
Color grading. You just color grade in camera 95% and just slap one preset on the rest, and then it's 2 minutes. Like for me, that would be saving a whole day. That's a good tip.
Hack.
That's a good hack.
Yeah,
Thanks for
and
that.
I'm sure your colours are a lot better than mine.
I don't know.
But again, like just thinking about it from the bride and groom's point of view, they're never going to notice. So there's little things where I've sat in an edit and spent an hour on a transition or something. When you get really creatively into it, and you're like, I'm gonna do this, and it's little frame by frame, thinking of spending hours on a tiny little bit of the video that they don't even notice. so I just kind of cut all that stuff out. But yeah, to the color grading, because I was showing you my equipment and stuff, I have just a couple of settings in here. So I get the kind of look that I want in my camera, and then I just do basic color correction in Final Cut. But I have a preset that I've made, that I've saved in Final Cut, and I just copy and paste it over every single clip. So it's literally just drag it onto a clip and then paste to all, and it's done.
And how much time do you need for your post-production in total?
So a full wedding, I'd normally say it's about 20 hours, maybe 25 hours for everything. So I typically give couples a full video of the ceremony, a full video of their speeches, and then I do a 20-minute edited film, and then I'll do a 5-minute highlights from a shorter version. So all 4 of those probably takes about 25 hours maybe.
That could be a very, very optimistic goal for you.
I have a lot to learn.
It's like two or 3 full days, but I kind of cheat there as well, because I have an editor who does my ceremony, speeches, multicam edits, and then they cull the footage for the films as well, and prep it and trim it down into the little 2 or 3 seconds, and they line it all up in the timeline for me. So that saves me a few hours. That's probably like a 4 or 5 hour process, and then I just come in and build the films from there. So the 20-minute film probably takes me about 10 hours, and then the highlights film maybe takes 6-7 hours or something.
Do you have sometimes like when you're writing scripts, it would be a writer's block, or I don't know if there's an editor's block, or do you have students of your own that tell you about these situations? Because I have them a lot, where I edit and I'm going and it's great and the film is coming alive, but then suddenly I spend a lot of time not knowing how to continue. Do you have those moments, and what would you recommend doing?
I do have those moments, yeah. And excuse me. What I normally do is just at that point try and have a break, and just turn off the computer and go and do something else, and then I'll come back to it then with fresh eyes, sit down, play through where I'm up to the point where I'm at. And then kind of hopefully some ideas will fall into my head at that point. But I always struggle with starting the film, like starting the edit. And obviously, like you could just say, well, you could start with a scenery shot, or start with the nice couple portraits, the nice. But I just always struggle to just start the film and where to bring the music in and stuff. So that's normally where my editor's block will come in, right at the start before I've even started anything. So it just at that point, if I'm struggling at the beginning before I've even started, what I tend to do then is just go through the rest of the footage and I'll start like with the ceremony or something. I'll skip ahead to like where the ceremony's going to be, and I'll start editing that together, putting the music under that, and then I feel like I've just got going, and then when I come back to the beginning, if that makes sense, like I don't feel like I'm, because I think it's the kind of knowledge in my brain. I'm like, well, you've not even started yet. You need to get started. But I can't think of what I want the start to be, and it just gets a bit overwhelming. So I think if I just go to skip to like halfway through the film and start editing something else partway through the day, then I come back to it and it doesn't seem as scary because I've already started filling it out, sort of thing. So, but I do try and have breaks here and there, and I tend to find that a lot of my ideas, if you will, come at like late at night. So I'll be sat watching telly and all of a sudden I'll be like, oh, I know what I'll do. So then I have to come at like midnight, I'll start editing,
Oh, wow. Do you let your girlfriend watch your wedding films when they are not finished yet?
No. Not even when they're finished.
Ah, really?
Yeah, because she'll probably just say like, yeah, it's all right.
And you'll be devastated.
So, if there's I actually filmed my partner's auntie's wedding. Funny story, me and my girlfriend met at a wedding. She was a bridesmaid.
Didn't you have something to do in the time?
So that sounds a lot less professional.
I would say that was only possible because you have such a minimal style of shooting weddings.
Yeah. If you need a girlfriend, just film weddings and use the Adam Wynn style.
But this sounds really wrong, doesn't it? I'm not professional, but she was a bridesmaid, and we didn't actually then start speaking until months down the line. So I was totally professional on the day, obviously.
Too bad.
Obviously,
we thought we were onto a story here.
But then, so I did that wedding, and then because I did that wedding, she recommended me to do her auntie's wedding. So then we started chatting, and then we started seeing each other. We got together, and then I did her auntie's wedding. So, going back to your question, when I'd filmed my partner's auntie's wedding, and I finished the video, I was so nervous because it's her family, and they're my family at this point as well, and I kind of played it because I play my films for her, and she goes, "Yeah, it's all right, it's nice," and I'm like, "What does that mean?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's nice." I'm like, well, you know, I don't like the music. That's not the music I would have chosen. So then I'm like, I'm gonna have to redo the whole thing. This is awful. So, so no, I don't ask anymore because it just creates work. Yeah. But when I did her auntie's wedding, she loved it. So that was the one time where she was like, yeah, it's great.
Okay, cool.
Thankfully,
yeah. But that's quite a similar reaction I get from Xenia, and I have to show her because she's part of the process. And it would feel wrong if I send it out without showing her. And I feel you very much on these situations. And
I
hear them.
I tend not to show her just to avoid having to redo my films, basically. So yeah, my girlfriend is part of the business now as well. She started filming and doing her own weddings.
Oh, really?
Filming with me. So
really cool.
So you're filming together now?
Yeah. So when if I get booked with a second, I offer a second shooter, second videographer on my packages. I don't. And some couples will ask, like, do you have someone else that you can bring to film the groom whilst I'm filming the bride getting ready in the morning, for example? So I don't I normally shoot by myself. Mm-hmm. Again, minimal, discreet, just me. But if it's an option, if couples want a second person, it's an option. So I offer that. So for the weddings where my brides and grooms have booked a second shooter, I've now got Jade who can come and do it with me, and she's also filming her own weddings as well. So that's been nice.
Cool. Yeah, it's nice having I don't know, to be able to relate to what the other is doing and the struggles and.
I would say
she laughs because my footage is always dead shaky. So she's always like, "What's this? What have you given me? Yeah, this is just awful."
Maybe there's a lot of listeners who have just done a couple of weddings and they have a lot of time, maybe, or they want to go full time but don't know how many weddings they can do in their spare time and have maybe kids. What can they save time on?
So the big one that stands out is the music, because I know a lot of people that spend hours choosing the right music. Yeah. And I've been there and done it as well. But what I've done is, over time, kind of just I found the songs that work really well. And there's obviously I use licensed websites like MusicBed and Artlist and Soundstripe and things like that. And they do have they have wedding playlists, which are sometimes okay and sometimes really bad. But once I've found some music that I think works really well for a film, I'll put it in a folder on my computer, and I've built up a little library of like maybe 30 songs now that I'll just reuse. I don't use the same songs for every wedding film because obviously I want it to all look different on my website and my portfolio. And I would never, if I did one wedding for a couple and then I did her brother's wedding, I obviously wouldn't want them to have the same music. So I like to have like 30, 40 songs maybe that I can rotate through. So it's not like I'm using the same songs every week. I'm just maybe every couple of years I'm using the same tracks. So that now that I've built up that kind of library of songs that I know work, it saves me a lot of time having to search for new music every time. I just go back to the ones that I like already and I just drop them straight in. So that's hard to do at the start because it's taken me a while to build up that bank of music. But
what I would recommend in this situation is to be a bit cheeky, say get a Patreon of Adam Wing, because you started a Patreon a couple of days ago, I guess.
I did.
The thing that sold me was to get to be also a Patreon, is that you make recommended wedding film lists every month, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think that even if you don't use the exact music songs that you recommend, you get inspiration, and you get and if you find a song that, I don't know, that saves you hours of time, and I think that's a really, really great value you're giving your patrons.
Oh, well, thanks for being a part of that. Thank you, appreciate it. But yeah, I do a recommend. I think it's 20 songs, like a playlist of 20 songs that I recommend every month. And so, ironically, because I don't spend time searching for music for my wedding films anymore, I've started to now spend a lot of time searching for music that I can recommend on these playlists. So it's taken me a long time again. Yeah.
But we
then,
all it's in total, I don't know. I think it's amazing value what you give with your Patreon. If I'm so kind to give you a little advertisement for this, because I think it's amazing what you give for value. If you're starting out as a filmmaker, you can get a wingman, or what's it called. You can have a Zoom meeting with Adam and have an hour of discussion about your film. I have your wedding films reviewed, stuff like this. Yeah. I think that's if I would have started out and have had someone, I don't know, for not that, I don't know, it's like $80 or something. I think it's amazing value.
Yeah, for the top one.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's very kind. Thanks. Yeah, it's just obviously, I'll like review films and just kind of, because I get people asking me like, can you watch my latest highlights film and give me any advice and stuff. So it's just things like, you know, how to make this shot better, or that sequence or transition better, or how to make the audio fit better and tell more of a story, things like that. And then I critique websites and things so that your website's doing the best job of selling you to potential couples, and just general kind of mentoring sessions. But I like to help. If it's crazy, it's still crazy to me that people watch stuff and learn or take ideas from my videos. So it's kind of like, it's nice. I like doing it. But yeah, so my biggest tip, I suppose, for editing is just to have a set framework. Like with the music, like I have a set selection of songs that I always use and I know work, and I've even called them, like, because my long films, my 20-minute films, I'll break down into like four sections really. The morning, the ceremony, the drinks reception, and then the evening. And for each of those 4 sections, I'm getting Instagrammed. for each of those 4 sections of the film, I'll have a track, a different piece of music. So in my little library of songs, I'll have like, I'll rename the files and say like morning music, ceremony music, nighttime music. So I know at a glance that this song is going to get put over the nighttime footage, for example. And it's the same with when I use the pieces of audio from the wedding day itself, like the speeches and the vows and things like that. I'll use chunks of audio that I've recorded from the groom's speech or the father of the bride's speech, for example. Like the father of the bride's speech works really well over the top of the footage of her getting ready. So if I kind of break it down into these sections, and it's the same kind of framework set up for every single edit. So I always know when I start, I'm going to have like a load of footage from the morning prep, and it's going to be the father of the bride's speech that goes underneath that, and it's going to be a certain song that goes underneath that, and then I just kind of piece it together from there. So it's just having a set sort of template that loosely works for every single wedding. Just helps with the mindset, and I already know, and this is where you kind of develop a style. So I know every time that it's how it's going to be laid out.
Yeah, and I think this is especially important if you film so many weddings.
A lot of weddings, exactly, yeah. So I just knew I knew that I had to be very strict with myself. It goes back to the restricting myself with equipment. I restrict myself in terms of editing. I don't allow myself to color grade. I don't allow myself to find new music and spend hours because I don't have time, really. So it's just and editing. I like editing the films and the short films and putting the story together, but I enjoy it somewhat. But it's not my favorite. My favorite part of the whole process is filming the wedding day. So especially when I've got a lot of work in the summer, I just like to get the edits done and out the way. So I just follow my routine. I use the same music. I don't bother color grading. I make it as simple as possible. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, because I think you need a lot of confidence, I think, also to have this approach. If you have no other choice, if you have 50 weddings, you don't have a choice. You need to have somewhat of a process similar to yours. But if you don't, then it's, I don't know, it's hard to say, okay, I just spent 1 day or 2 days on a wedding film and post-production, even if you have longer time. One selfish question: Do you color code your footage on the timeline, or do you have separate timelines for each section of the day, or do you have just one big B-roll timeline?
Yeah, just one big B-roll timeline. I'll put little spaces in between each part of the day. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so it just kind of looks like I know where, like, well, it's not like they're color coded, but I just know that the first block of clips is the morning, then the next block, then the next.
All right.
I'll put spaces. Right. Yeah. So, but I mean, I still like to think that I do my best with all my films. I'm still pretty proud of how they come out. So yes, it's efficient and it's quick and it helps because I do a lot of weddings and it saves me a lot of time, but I still wouldn't, I still try and make it as good as it can be. I still want the couples to love it.
That's the thing. That's the whole thing. It's not about we think you have just the most efficient workflow we've ever seen on any wedding filmmaker. It's just that your films also look very nice, and I at first, when I started out, I couldn't imagine having a workflow you've talked about right now and making these films, but it shows that if you think about your process, if you have the 80-20 rule or something, that it don't need to be perfect, it actually improves your films overall, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. Like I was saying before, but and my partner's right, my footage is pretty shaky a lot of the time. But it kind of adds a little bit of realism to the video. And I remember watching The Hobbit at the cinema, and they did The Hobbit at 48 frames a second, and you could go and see it at the cinemas at 48 frames a second. And I remember watching that and thinking, it doesn't look like a film, it looks like actors on a set. It looks too real because there was none of the motion blur. But flipping that on the other way, by if you have that effect on a wedding video, that the whole point is to try and take the couples back to their day. So for me, like, the more kind of home video, less, I mean, it contradicts because I try and be cinematic, but also by not Sorry, knocking my thing over. That's going to sound bad on your audio, isn't it? And I've dented my table. Anyway, by not worrying about your certain filmmaking kind of rules, the shutter speed and things like that, it kind of makes them, and not overthinking the edit too much. I do think it kind of makes my films more real and kind of takes them back to the day that little bit more, even subconsciously. So it just works all around. It saves me time and it makes for better results. So I don't know how I get away with it, but I do.
Oh, that's amazing. We thank you so much for your time and for all the tips you've given us.
Was that okay? Is that a good?
That was interesting.
It was quite.
Okay, good. I hope so. Well, if anyone listening wants to like message me on Instagram, or I can happy to chat and answer questions. So, but I hope that was somewhat useful.
Totally. For us it was quite interesting. I hope the Germans didn't hate our English too much, because we it's quite hard if you're live and searching for words and don't speak at all in English.
Maybe I can get some of people from the UK listening to your podcast now, hopefully.
That would be fun, and they have one episode they can listen to. But if you ever come by if you ever film a wedding in Germany or something, you're very welcome to have a pint with us.
Sure, that would be great. I'd love to.
It would be fun, I think.
Whereabouts would that be?
It's in the south of Germany, like near Munich.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, if you're in Oktoberfest,
1 hour and a half.
1 hour.
Yeah, that's alright. I'll come drive over.
Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen und Zuhören. Ich hoffe, ihr habt da den ein oder anderen Mehrwert mitgenommen. Wir freuen uns immer über Feedback, und wenn ihr möchtet, folgt gern auch unserer Facebook-Gruppe Feierabendbier mit Hochzeitsvideografen. Wir freuen uns, euch da zu sehen, zu hören. Bis zum nächsten Mal.